What if debt is not always the enemy? What if the real problem is not debt itself, but how people use it? This is Chapter 3 of Retire Young, Retire Rich, and the lesson is powerful. If you want to change your financial future, you first need to change the way you think about money. Most people are taught to fear debt. They are told to work hard, save money, avoid risk, and stay away from anything that sounds financially dangerous. And in many cases, that advice protects people from making terrible mistakes. But in this chapter, Robert Kiyosaki introduces a different idea. He explains that wealthy people do not just work harder, they learn how to use leverage. And one of the most powerful forms of leverage is using other people's money intelligently. But this lesson comes with a serious warning. Debt can help you build freedom, or it can destroy your life. The difference is financial education. In Chapter 3, Kiyosaki tells the story of a speech he gave to a group of mortgage bankers in Los Angeles. At first, he did not know what to say to them. These were not beginners. They worked with loans, mortgages, banks, and money every day. So instead of giving his usual talk about assets, liabilities, and financial statements, he found a different angle. That morning, he saw a newspaper article about a couple who had decided to retire early. They were 59 and 56 years old. Their retirement account had grown because the stock market had performed well. They sold their house, bought a smaller one, reduced their expenses, and started playing golf every day. To many people, that sounds like financial success, and in some ways it was. But Kiyosaki saw a deeper lesson. When he stood in front of the bankers, he asked a powerful question. How was he able to retire at 47, while that couple retired later? What made the difference? At first, the room was silent. Then, Kiyosaki explained the difference in 2 words: debt versus equity. The couple in the newspaper used their own money. They saved, they invested, they waited for the market to grow. But Kiyosaki said he used debt. Not bad debt, not credit card debt, not consumer debt. He used debt as leverage to buy assets that produced cash flow. That is the main idea of this chapter. Debt is not automatically good or bad. Debt becomes dangerous or powerful depending on what you use it for. If you borrow money to buy things that take money out of your pocket every month, that is bad debt. But if you use debt carefully to buy assets that put money into your pocket every month, that can become good debt. The difference is cash flow. This is where many people get confused. They think all debt is the same. But Kiyosaki explains that there is a big difference between borrowing money to look rich and borrowing money to build assets. A car loan for a car you cannot afford may take money out of your pocket every month. Credit card debt for unnecessary things may keep you trapped. A personal loan used for lifestyle may create pressure. That is bad debt. But debt used carefully to buy an asset that produces income is different. For example, imagine someone borrows money to buy a rental property. If that property pays for its own expenses and still leaves money every month, that debt may be helping create cash flow. That does not mean it is risk-free. It does not mean everyone should do it. It does not mean debt is magic. It means that education changes the way you use financial tools, and that is the practical lesson. Do not fear debt blindly. But do not use debt carelessly. Study it, respect it, understand it, because debt is like a loaded gun. In the right hands, it can be used carefully. In the wrong hands, it can destroy everything. That is why this chapter is not really about borrowing money. It is about financial intelligence. Kiyosaki compares 2 different ways of thinking. His poor dad believed in working hard, saving money, avoiding debt, and paying cash. That advice sounds safe. But according to Kiyosaki, his poor dad often borrowed money for things that made him poorer, like personal houses, cars, or lifestyle expenses, while avoiding investments that could have made him richer. His rich dad thought differently. He asked better questions. How long would it take to save $1 million? And how long would it take to borrow $1 million? Who becomes richer over time? The person who works all their life trying to save money? Or the person who learns how to borrow money wisely and invest it into assets that generate returns? Again, this does not mean everyone should borrow money. It means that wealthy people think differently about tools. They do not only ask, "How much can I earn?" They ask, "How can I use leverage? How can I multiply my effort? How can I create cash flow? How can I make money work harder than I do?" That word is important. Leverage. Leverage means using a tool that multiplies your effort. It allows you to do more with less. David defeated Goliath not because he was physically stronger, but because he used leverage. The Beatles became extremely successful because they used music, radio, television, and records as leverage. Business owners use systems as leverage. Authors use books as leverage. Creators use the internet as leverage. Investors use money as leverage. And people who want financial freedom must learn how to use financial education as leverage. That is the real message of Chapter 3. If you want to retire young and rich, hard work alone may not be enough. Saving alone may not be enough. Waiting decades may not be enough. You need leverage. But leverage without education is dangerous. So the first step is not to run out and borrow money. The first step is to learn. Learn the difference between an asset and a liability. Learn the difference between cash flow and capital gains. Learn the difference between good debt and bad debt. Learn how banks think. Learn how investors think. Learn how risk works. Because the goal is not to have more debt. The goal is to become financially smarter. Here is a real-life example. Two people earn the same income. The first person uses debt to buy a more expensive car, upgrade their lifestyle, and pay for things they cannot afford. Every month, more money leaves their pocket. They may look successful, but financially, they are under pressure. The second person studies money first. They learn about assets. They learn about risk. They learn how cash flow works. Then, carefully, they use financing to buy something that can produce income. They are not using debt to look rich. They are using debt as a tool to build financial freedom. Same tool. Different education. Different result. That is why the practical exercise from this chapter is simple. Take a piece of paper and create two columns. On one side, write good debt. On the other side, write bad debt. Good debt is debt that helps put money into your pocket. Bad debt is debt that takes money out of your pocket. Then look at your own life. Your car loan, your credit cards, your personal loans, your mortgage, your business debt, your investment debt. And ask yourself, is this debt making me richer, or is it making me poorer? That question can change the way you see money. Because many people do not have only a money problem, they have a leverage problem. They work hard, but they do not multiply their effort. They earn money, but they do not create cash flow. They avoid all debt, but never learn how wealthy people use it. Or worse, they use bad debt and call it normal life. Chapter 3 teaches that financial freedom is not just about earning more. It is about understanding money at a deeper level. It is about knowing the difference between risk and ignorance. It is about learning how to use tools wisely. And it is about respecting debt. Because debt can help you, or debt can destroy you. So the final lesson is this. Do not fear debt blindly. Do not use debt carelessly. Build your financial education first. Learn before you borrow. Understand before you invest. And never use leverage just because someone else did. Use leverage only when you understand the risks, the numbers, and the cash flow. Because good debt can build freedom, bad debt can build a prison. And the difference is financial education. This is Chapter 3 of Retire Young, Retire Rich. And if this lesson helped you, subscribe to Books in Action for more powerful ideas from books, made simple. Comment below. Do you know the difference between good debt and bad debt?